Headphone highlights. So, before we really can get started, I have a very important question to ask everyone in the chat. A question that I'm also asking everyone who is watching this at home on YouTube. And the answer to this question is going to define you as a person. Because of that, I want to make sure that when you answer, you're answering truthfully and honestly. I don't want you to have to sit and think about it. As soon as you hear my question, I want you to lash it out without a second thought. Go by instinct. I want it to erupt from you like a geyser, okay? Be truthful and honest with yourself. It's very important. The question that I need to ask everyone is a simple one, but nonetheless profound and very important. And that question is, pardon me one moment. Do you have a game, bro? Do you have a game? Alright. All jokes aside. Also, shout out to the Fusroda hat. And my wife's sunglasses, because I couldn't find my own. But yeah, we're talking gaming headsets today. Where in the heck did I just put my glasses? Everything's good. It's chaos over here, but we're fine. Oh, hey there, White Owl. Hello. Thanks for chiming in. Good to see you. First time in the chat. Welcome to Headphone Highlights. So, yes. What are these? These are interesting. These are... I got the box right here. Ready? Kabam! The Jeecoo G80s. Interesting thing about these. This is a gaming headset that was sent to me, provided to me by Jeecoo themselves. Jeecoo provided this to me for this review. So right up front, I want to make sure this is clear. This is, while this was provided to me by Jeecoo, they have in no way done anything to influence what I'm going to say during this review, okay? Positive, negative, whatever. It's all going to be very, very honest. And I want to give some credit where credit is due. Because Jeecoo understands that. It's very interesting to me that a gaming headset brand had the balls to send an audiophile nerd their gaming headset for a review. That's pretty brave. And it was some back and forth, but eventually it very much came around to the understanding of, they really do just want a straight up honest review of this thing. And again, to give credit where credit is due, they insisted that I be as honest and as clear as I possibly can, because whatever feedback I'm able to provide for this device, they're going to take to heart and help improve their product line down the road. That's in their own words. And I don't care who you are, I think that's super cool, and I think that is a very commendable attitude to have. So with that in mind, I was very like, yeah, sure, send it my way. I'll be honest, but that's a very commendable mindset. So good on them. You always watch your headphone highlight on YouTube. First time on the Twitch. Oh, that's great. White Owl, thank you for stopping by. That's super cool. Welcome to the live stream. You'll be, you know what? Right here. Boom, White Owl right there on the screen when I eventually upload this to YouTube. So cool, man. Thanks for stopping by. That's really neat. So yeah, a gaming headset. We have not talked about gaming headsets in the headphone highlights, I don't think. I mean, A little bit, but not necessarily a headset of itself. We talked a little bit about gaming headsets in general, but we haven't had a gaming headset on the channel to talk about. So we're kind of starting down a line of gaming headsets. I'm going to be talking about a few for the next couple of weeks, but we're starting with these because interesting. Yeah, so let's go over the usual routine here and talk about the build. Plastic, that should be pretty clear. It's a very clean plastic. It's very white. Lots of, white and gray accents. So it's very clean looking, very kind of modern. Bring this up to you. That is the logo there. That's their logo. And yes, it does light up in brilliant, beautiful RGB. Let me turn that on for you. There you go. And it does cycle different colors. I am partial to the blue and purple myself, but I think it will also get into some greens and some yellows and all that. But yeah, so there's your RGB for the accents there. You'll notice it's got power and there's no cable connected. So these are wireless. This is a wireless gaming headset. First impressions, super cute. Love the RGB. Yeah, it's pretty nice RGB. When it comes to RGB, either you like it or you don't, whatever. But I think that in terms of the style of the RGB being used here, I think it's fairly, I don't know, it's a little classy. It's not like a huge, ridiculous amount of RGB. It's just a nice kind of little accent of RGB. And I like that. Gaming headsets and audiophiles are not a good combination. Yeah, that's generally the case. So again, very brave of them to send this to me. Anyway, lots of plastics. We go up to the headband and we have just only a height adjustment for the headband. There's no swiveling for the cups. We only have the headband adjustment, which is a simple clicky click, right? It's pretty satisfying. I have seen much, much worse mechanisms than this. And this holds pretty well. It doesn't have the most amount of range to it. It would benefit from having a bit more of a height range, but it's not bad. There is a little bit of metal here, but I think that's more of like a spring metal just to kind of reinforce the headband. The headband itself, as we keep going up, is wrapped in this gray kind of faux leather pad. I believe it's the same faux leather used on the pads themselves. There's a tiny, itsy bitsy teeny bit of comfort padding on the top of the headband here. It is throughout the whole bottom, but it's just the tiniest amount, right? So you have your right indicator right there. It's a little hard for you to see. Let me see if I can get it down on the camera. Yeah, little R there. And the other side has your L. In terms of the interface on the headphone, the actual button UIs, we come to the back of the headphone here and we have a power button, a volume button up and down, and then the microphone on and off. Yes, it does have a microphone, and the microphone is detachable, which is a nice thing. It comes with this little kind of rubbery insert to put on the bottom here when you're not using the microphone. But if you want to, you could pop that off, and now you can plug your microphone right in there. Let me go ahead and do that so you can see what that looks like. Here's your microphone. And it does just very simply pop in there with a 3.5mm connection. And now you have a gaming headset. You already did, but now you have a gaming headset with a microphone. The microphone is usable. It's not great. In fact, for those of you watching on YouTube, this is what the microphone sounds like right now. Hey gamers, this is what the G80 microphone sounds like. So yeah, the microphone isn't amazing, but it's perfectly usable. When I'm using it for PC gaming though, I have to say I do have to increase the gain on the microphone in my PC settings because otherwise it's too quiet. So yes, it works. Yes, it does the job. It could sound worse, but it also could sound a lot better. So the microphone's okay. Leave it at that. So there it is. Here's your build. Well, okay, we have to talk about pads a little bit. Get that in here. Pretty basic pads. They're actually, they're pretty decent. They are a faux leather. They're decently soft. They're a little bit padded. They're not the thickest pads you can get, but they're pretty okay. You can kind of see your driver in there a little bit. And they're fine. I am a little concerned that it's the type of protein leather that kind of degrades over time. But I don't know for sure. And right off the bat, it does feel pretty nice. They're fairly soft. And I'm fairly confident in them. The plastic that is used here is admittedly very, very light plastic, which is good for comfort, but it does feel fairly cheap. It's a very kind of toy-like plastic, but I think that in terms of how it looks, it's a little deceptive because I think it looks a little bit nicer quality plastic than it actually is, and I would consider that, I guess, a bit of a bonus. It looks nicer than it feels. So as long as you're not, handing this over to someone, they're not really going to know that it's kind of this kind of cheapy toy-like plastic. But it is a very light headphone, to be sure. This is very, very light. So that's good. There is a natural clampiness to them, as you can see. You can spread them out a little bit, but there is a bam clamp force. Other things that they come with. They do come with what I was using earlier today, a simple white 3.5 millimeter audio cable, which you could use if you wanted to run these wired. Again, though, they are wireless. To run them wireless, they did come with a little USB dongle. So you plug this into your PC or your console, and then it at least for me, pretty seamlessly was recognized by, especially Windows here, was recognized by Windows very easily, and it paired really quickly. So that was actually pretty surprising. I was expecting this to be pretty finicky, but it worked like a charm. It really was a plug and play sort of deal. So I was really impressed with that. But yeah, the cable itself that it comes with is decent. It's not super ridiculously long, which I appreciate. It's probably a good 4 feet. It does appear to have a microphone on there, which is a little odd to me because it's a gaming headset that already has a microphone. So I don't really get this, but I haven't used it, so I'm not really worried too much about it. The cable itself is probably what you expect. It's a pretty cheap cable, but it's not the same kind of cheap standard cable you get that has kind of like that tackiness to it, to the rubber. This has kind of this nice satiny feel to the rubber, which is honestly a little pleasant to hold. So I'm okay with this cable. This cable's not bad. It's a little bit janky, a little bit, but I feel like if you really finessed it enough and worked around with it, you could probably get it nice and straight. Otherwise, but really, I don't really have a problem with the cable. There's no branding on the cable, which I'm fine with. And the white does match the white of the headphone. So it's a pretty decent looking combo. All right. It also comes with a USB-C to USB-A cable, which can be used, one, to charge it, but also you could, if you really wanted to, use this as your audio cable. So you can plug this into your PC, and it should be able to recognize it as an audio device, if you want to go that route. But yeah, mainly for charging, I think. You notice it unpairing while using them. No, I have not. I have not noticed them unpairing. They've been very consistent. And the connection, I didn't mention this. I was able to put these on my head wirelessly in this room, take them downstairs into my freaking laundry room. Totally fine, nothing broke. No, the connection did not break. I even took them outside into my backyard, and not until I got like halfway through my backyard did it finally start having trouble. So it has excellent range on the connection. In fact, something I like to mention, which again, I found to be pretty impressive with it. It says here on the box that there is a 10-hour battery that it would last about 10 hours. I gotta say, I think significantly more than that. I wore these wired for over a week without charging them. I mean, that's pretty damn impressive. Admittedly, I didn't have them like on the entire time, not 24 hours, but I had them wireless with RGB on, doing my gaming for, a couple hours a day over the course of a week, and they were totally fine. So battery is actually quite impressive. I have to admit it. The battery is impressive. I think that's pretty much it in terms of the accessories. You got a manual in there too, and I think some stickers. But yeah, it's, pretty basic gaming headset. I think the amp DAC included would be the most power-hungry component in the headset. Right? Yeah. Having it powered on like this, yes, that's obviously where the power is being drained. It does a really great job in terms of longevity for the battery. Oh yes, so you noticed that. Okay, we'll talk about the 7.1 surround sound when we get to the sound portion of the video. So yeah, the build is okay. I have a couple complaints about the build. Interesting, it just turned off. And it did that, I'm pretty sure, not because the battery ran out, because it didn't. It absolutely did not. I think it did that because it didn't recognize I was using it. So that's cool. I didn't know it did that. Anyway, I do have some complaints about the build, but I'm going to save those for a little bit later. Because, again, things have to be a little bit different with gaming headsets, okay? We have to talk about a few extra things. And because of that, because there's going to be a lot of different things we got to talk about when it comes to gaming headsets, something I'm going to include in this video that I haven't really included with our general headphone highlights is I'm going to have a section where I'm going to say how they can improve it. Especially for Jeecoo here, because, they say that's what they're listening for. That's what they want. They want me to tell them how they can improve. Well, I'm going to have a section all for that. In general, the build is okay. It feels pretty sturdy. I'm not worried about it breaking apart. It's fine. The plastic's a little cheap feeling, but otherwise everything else seems to work well, and I don't really have any complaints about the build. The comfort. They're very, very light, which helps a lot. So I'm not concerned at all about having pressure on top of my head, really. All right, let's try without the hat. You have to pardon my hat hair. So even without the hat, I know that there's not a lot of padding on the headband, but it's so light that I really don't feel it. I barely feel anything on the top of my head. What I am feeling is clamp force. That's mainly, I think, how this thing is holding onto my head. Hey Ginger, hey Hammer Time, thanks for stopping by, guys. We're talking about gaming headsets today. So the clamp force is it's pretty predominant. It's not a huge amount of clamp force. I'd say it's still not as much as your Sennheiser 600s, but it's a fair bit. And the biggest problem with the comfort is actually a problem with the build. This is not a hinge right here. This is solid. This headphone will only bend this way. And unless your head is this wide exactly, unfortunately, you have the problem of the headphones kind of coming in on you like this. So when I wear these, the bottom of the headphone is pushing down further than the top. So that is doing two things. It is, one, causing a little bit of pressure here, so it's not very evenly distributed. But the other thing that's doing is it is kind of affecting the seal of the sound, because the pad up here at the top is very loose and not pressed right up against the side of my head. So it's like very tight down here, very loose up here. So the sound is kind of getting directed upwards. It's kind of one of those things that, if you have the right head shape, you're going to be fine with it. You might even really, really like it. But if you don't have the right head shape, you might run into some comfort problems and even potentially some listening problems, which we'll talk about. Yeah, the pads, though, are, again, pretty soft. They're pretty nice. And there is a fair amount of ear volume in here. So you got a good 2.5, almost like 2.5 wide and 3.5 tall of ear space. So plenty of ear space inside the pads. So overall, the comfort's okay. It's better than other things we've had on the channel before for sure. So I'm gonna, in terms of our comfort cloud scale, folks, if you want to get your emotes ready for your comfort clouds, I'm gonna give these a 7. Yeah, 7 clouds of comfort, pretty dang good. Mainly because of the lightweight, but I think that number is gonna really be variable depending on your head shape. Because if your head maybe even slightly smaller than mine, which it likely is, this might pinch a bit more. I don't really know, but comfort's generally okay, especially at the beginning. After a long listening session, though, it can be a little fatiguing. So I will say at the beginning, like the first couple hours, you're at like a 7, but then it starts to kind of jump down to like a 6. So be aware of that. Before I get into how they sound, let's talk about some things that Jeecoo, if you're listening, and you should be, here are some things that you could have done with the build to make this a much better experience. Number 1 is put a hinge here. Okay, let me grab. These headphones have a very similar general shape, okay, as the G80s. So this is a very similar shape, okay? If you look, they kind of have that ovally square shape, right? But as you look, these only come down at a certain angle, right? And if your head shape doesn't match that angle, you're going to have discomfort. Whereas with a system like this, it doesn't matter because it swivels. The hinge allows the driver housing to swivel and shape to your head. So Jeecoo, my number 1 advice for the build is put a hinge on there. It makes a huge difference, and it allows for more people to enjoy your headphone. Significantly more people. Because, I mean, if you're limiting it to just one head shape, that's a huge deterrent for a lot of folks. So with these, I have a pretty big head, but any of you in the chat could put these on and adjust them to fit very nice, okay? 7 cloud minus 1, yeah, good job. So yeah, put a hinge on there. That'll make a huge difference. And not just with the comfort, but I think it'll also make a difference with the sound. And I'll talk about that when we get to the sound section. Another thing that I think would really, really improve is something you almost have, Jeecoo. You almost did this. And I don't know if you intended it for this, but these pads are almost quick swappable. These do come off. It's not the simplest thing to do, but they're only attached by a very, very simple. You can take the pads off, and there's just a little kind of hole system where these little pegs go in there. And if you're looking at this, folks, this is almost a regular pad that just has holes cut into the back of it to fit over these pegs. You see that? So really, if you really wanted to, you can go and grab aftermarket pads of this shape, something maybe like brainwaves, punch some holes in it, and you could potentially hot swap with that. And in fact, what I've been doing, I do not recommend that you do this because that would be absolutely absurd. But I have suede ZMF pads that are the same shape but angled, and legitimately for a while there, I just kind of had these sitting here like this on both ends, and I would listen to these with frickin' ZMF pads, and it was, let me tell you, not a bad experience. So Jeecoo, if you made this detachable in a way where people didn't have to potentially damage their custom pads or their third-party pads, you would have something really pretty interesting here, because being able to do pad swaps with this would really increase the customizability. That could be a feature that you could promote. It would also allow people to kind of better fine-tune the sound and the comfort. Because yes, the sound did change with different pads, and the comfort also definitely changed. The driver opening is very airline headphone. Like, yeah, it's very flat for sure. So yeah, Jeecoo, these are almost like hot swappable detachable. You make them fully detachable or at least removable, where you could just kind of like peel them on and peel them back on, peel them off, put them back on with different pads. That's a big selling point. If you can do that, you should. I'm not going to complain much about the headband here because even though it doesn't have a lot of padding, the whole thing's so light, it's not a big deal. I will say, Jeecoo, if you want to step it up with this headphone to really make it feel more premium, because this is your flagship right now. This is Jeecoo's flagship headphone right now, the G80. Use higher quality plastics. If this was a higher quality plastic, like say, heck, even the M40Xs here have nicer feeling plastic, but I think you can go as far as something like T50s, Fostex T50 RPs. Use that kind of plastic. It'll make it feel way more premium, and people will have a better appreciation for it. I know there might be a bit of a weight difference to that, but I don't think it's enough to justify. I don't think it's enough additional weight to not justify the quality improvement you're going to get in terms of the feel of premiumness, because that's a word, if you use higher quality plastics. I really like the detachable microphone. I think that's great. Okay, so the sound. The sound. One thing I want to get very, very clear. This is a gaming headset, right? This is meant to game with. This is not meant to listen to music with. Could you listen to music with it? Yes. Should you listen to music with it? No. No, you shouldn't. These, when it comes to, give me a moment here, because I think when it comes to gaming, these are actually quite good. But when it comes to music and audio fidelity, you shouldn't be very surprised. They're not meant for that. There's a pretty significant amount of distortion at certain, especially at higher volumes. The low end is extremely punchy and veiling, and your mid-range can be pretty mixed, and your high end can be very, very shouty. Vocals in particular seem to take a back seat to what almost is this kind of like noise, almost like it just can't quite read what the mid-range is doing. So this is not a very good listening experience for music. There really hasn't been any attempt to do tuning on this thing, and I'm not surprised, right? This isn't an audiophile headphone. This is a gaming headset. So the actual frequency you're getting in terms of your analytical sound signature is very, very messy. It's all over the place. It doesn't seem like it's very controlled. So don't get these to listen to music. You could, yes, but it's not what I would recommend. In terms of gaming, however, honestly, better than I was expecting. It really beat my expectations for gaming. It boasts on the box, as Mania noticed, 7.1 surround sound. Now, if you're not familiar, this is kind of a dumb thing to say, kind of a dumb thing to claim for a gaming headset, because it's not. It is not 7.1 surround sound. For something to be 7.1 surround sound, the 7 in 7.1 means 7 speakers, 7 devices, 7 outputs, and the 1 is your one source. So 7 outputs to one source, 7.1. This does not have 7 speakers in it. This does not have 7 drivers in it. It has 2 drivers, 1 for each side, which makes this a stereo device, not a 7.1 surround sound device. Let's just make that very clear. This is a promotional marketing thing that gaming headsets tend to say. And I believe what they're trying to say is that the headphone simulates a 7.1 surround sound like sound, not that it is in fact a headphone that has 7 drivers inside of it, because that would be ridiculous. Maybe something like that exists, I don't know, but this doesn't. So right off the bat, $44 on Amazon. Yep, the price is not bad. Exactly. Yeah, this is only $44 on Amazon right now. So keep that in mind as we keep going. This is a under $50 gaming headset, and I'll get back to the price again a little bit later, but keep that in mind as we keep going. So yeah, it's not a 7.1 surround sound device. However, I will fully admit that it does an excellent job of providing a very spacious sound. I'm not sure I'd necessarily call it soundstage. It's almost like a simulated soundstage. It's a little strange to say, but it does give this sense of space between you and what you're hearing in the game. Gunfire sounds like it's very immersively around you. It's a very 360 sort of experience. I feel like I could hear things above me, behind me, and to the left and the right of me, and even in front of me a little bit. Even when we were playing Mass Effect earlier, I could clearly hear gunfire off behind me, to the right, and slightly up. So good spatial awareness and pretty good imaging for gaming. The imaging for music, not so much, but for the imaging for gaming, hearing gunfire, hearing footsteps, very, very good. It does an excellent job. And the low end, the bass hitting of this thing for gaming is extremely punchy and rich and very deep and resonant. And it's very exciting sounding and very immersive. It's very nice. So explosions and, you know, big wham wham bams sound really fun with these. The one downside to the gaming audio is it does seem to suffer with dialogue. When we were playing Mass Effect earlier today, the characters talking to each other, since that happens a lot in Mass Effect games, they sounded pretty almost like they're pushed away and almost like they're entering a different room. That sounds worse than it is. They just sounded like they're a little too far away and almost a little bit veiled, like they had almost like they had something over their mouths. So the dialogue was not great, but everything else sounded really pretty nice, especially for a $50 headset. Unfortunately, Jeecoo, listen to this. This is very important. When you're listening to this wirelessly, there is a very definite sound floor. There's a slight buzzing sound, like a hissing sound, noise floor. It's very, very noticeable when you're running these wireless. Jeecoo, you need to get rid of that. It's not very noticeable when you're gaming because there's just so much going on. But when there's no sound or anything's really, really quiet, you definitely hear that noisy sound floor. So Jeecoo, work on that. Make sure your wireless connection doesn't have this noise problem. Because when I have these plugged in, like right to my audio source, wired in, I don't hear a noise floor at all. So you gotta work on the wireless noise floor. Get rid of that. You know, I have other gaming headsets here that we're going to be talking about in the future. But right off the bat here with a $50 headset, I've heard a hell of a lot worse for a lot more money. So if you just need a gaming headset on the cheap, I really think this is an excellent choice because not only does it sound pretty decent for gaming, but you get that sick ass RGB, like hello, and also it's wireless. Like I haven't seen many wireless gaming headsets at this price range. Do not get these to listen to music, but by all means get them for gaming. They're pretty darn good for gaming. And yeah, at that price range, $50, man, there's not a whole lot competition that has all these features, I don't think. Yeah, Jeecoo, cool stuff. Thank you for, providing this unit to me. I look forward to whatever you come up with next. I know this is kind of your top of the line right now, but I also know that you're working on new stuff. That's what your representative told me, and I'm excited to see what you come out with. Give this a hinge. Use better plastics. Make the pads easily interchangeable with third-party pads, and work on your sound. So yeah, Jeecoo, thank you very much for providing this for the headphone highlights. We appreciate you, and also I very much want to commend Jeecoo for being so brave as to let an audio nerd like me take a hack at their headset here. And I appreciate them wanting to hear feedback and hoping to improve their line down the road. So thank you very much, Jeecoo, for providing this headset. All right, folks, I think that's about all we can say with the headphone highlight today. I hope you enjoyed that. We'll be talking about more gaming headsets down the road, so look forward to that. And I'll be seeing you real soon.